presentation is on the HPC app. So the HPC app is the new method Haas will track and record warranty and service issues from now on. The HPC app is easy once you have it set up. The requirements are access to the portal and an iPhone or Android smartphone. So on your phone, navigate to the Play Store. And you would search for Haas. And you will see that there's the fourth option from the top, Haas service. You can install it from here and then open it, and you can also come back here to find updates and find out if it's been updated. Once you have it installed, you run the software, and upon opening it and logging in with your portal username and ID, you will come to this screen, which is the work order screen. So what I'll do now is run through an example. So this is a job here. I'll select the work. The first screen is the details screen. One of the things to make note of here is this ID here, the 307575056. This is different than a lot of internal software. For example, our internal software calls this job 284207. This ID is the SAP ID, and it's the ID that the factory is going to require going forward for any kind of service or warranty issues. If you end up contacting the factory about a job you're on, this is the ID you're going to want to reference in your subject line and any emails you have with them. The next tab is the notes tab. So the internal notes, this tab here in our case for our HFO is populated by our internal application with the original call. This internal notes section is where you could add other information that you saw on the call. This has the most room and it saves the most information of the 4 different areas where you can enter information on this app. Internal notes would be where you added information that the customer does not need to see. This will not be included on the PDF file that is output to the customer. As of right now, we're not using that PDF file and forwarding it to the customer, but just for future reference, the internal notes would be left out. So for complaint, in this particular case, there was noise coming from the live tooling. You can get more in depth into your explanation, but simple is sometimes better, and for certain things, you will want to get more in depth. In this case, this issue actually ended up being not with our machine, but with the actual live tooling block. Once I tested other blocks, they sounded fine, and I verified that the runout on our live tooling drive was within spec at 1,500. Now, the cost section is, I believe, the most important one for the factory right now at this time. This is where, for any parts that are returned, whether it's a vector drive, servo amplifier, or a motor, this is what they're going to be looking at to verify that it was returned for the right reason. Corrective action would be what was fixed, and in some cases, why the job is just complete without any fix. So in this case, the corrective action was to explain to the customer that our machine is within its specs and put them in contact with our salesperson that arranged for the sale of the Benz tool holder and see what they could do with Benz to help the customer out. So now that we have those sections filled out, we can move over to the file section. Now the file section lets you attach quite a bit of different things. So you can attach a photo or a video. Now, if you're going to attach a video to this application, it is better to use the video from this application because it compresses it and it keeps it limited to the time that the factory wants. That's gonna be better for you. You won't have any issues uploading a larger file or having to compress any kind of other file. The other options are you can go into your gallery and pull in any photos you've previously taken. There's also an option to add files where you can browse through your phone and find PDFs or checklists, ball bars or plots. Using this too, you can add a error report. Now it explains here how you would go through the process of doing it. On a lot of phones nowadays, it's actually a lot simpler than this explains. You just hit continue. You plug in your drive directly to the phone. And it'll let you browse the drive directly. Then you can take that error report there you go. And you can change the file name to the serial number. I mean, the serial number is usually included on the error report, but you can add the customer name. You can put a description there of, you know, the error report was taken at the time of crash or failure. This is the file section of the HPC app. The next section is the edit section. This is where you would add call type. In this case, I would consider it a mechanical failure. It's not necessarily our machine's failure. It was the tool block itself that has bearings failing on it. System code, there's quite a bit of options here. In this case, I will select tooling. There's different ones. Motion control I've used for like axis, and they keep in mind that the application itself is constantly being updated by the factory, so sometimes these things change. You kind of have to just, you know, read the different options and pick the best result. The last section here on the edit screen is the inspection code. This is where you have to choose which of the three things apply to the door safety on the customer's machine. Is it functioning to spec? Did they refuse for us to restore it to normal, or did they let us restore it to normal? So select function to spec. The door has not been modified in any way. Right now, our HFO is not using times to log time, so the next step here would be to press complete. Now, the next steps require close attention because as this application is currently being worked on by the factory, there are some bugs with it. So you swipe to the right, you are allowed to verify all the information that you've added, and then you are allowed to sign the work order report. The application was originally designed so that a customer can sign this. And what we are doing now is we're just drawing a line to it, pressing submit, and then for the name, press the letter. After you do this, you will get an error, which you click OK on, back, cancel, and then the left arrow here. Now, after you press complete again, it will let you go through and now close the work order. then you will get another option here that eventually will be to include the customer's email address here and send them a copy of this report. Right now, we are not doing that, so we will just skip email, and the work order will be successfully closed, and it will change to a check mark. Now, these are the requirements by the factory for using this app, but there are some benefits to using this app as well. So for example, I will click on the work order, and here under procedures, you have a large amount of information that you can pull up. Again, this is constantly changing since they're working on this app, probably as we speak. One of the features that was recently available and hopefully will return is that you can type in checklist here and be taken to the Haas service guide, where you can open up a checklist on a PDF file, fill it out, and then that file will automatically be added to this application under the file section of the job you're on. So hopefully that will be back for us. But for trainees, this is a very useful tool because they don't have to go into the web browser. Some of this stuff is available for them even, I believe, when they don't have internet connection. It might ask for some of it, but I believe it saves it too. So they can even search for it by how-to, reference diagram, videos. The next section, and I believe the most useful section, is the service history tab. Now, using this tab, you can actually go back and you can see pretty much every service visit, including parts that were ordered for the machine you're working on. This is, like, without a doubt, the most important tool, because you do not need to sign in to your internal software. You'd be able to do it all from this app. You do not need to have a job assigned to you with the machine to find that information. You can also click the serial number here, enter a serial number, and be provided with the same information. And this app, since it interfaces with the factory, will actually go back pretty far. I've seen it get as far as 2002, I believe. And you can see, you'll see notes from the factory, from a lot of important information you can see here. And it's also helpful if you're working on a machine and you're replacing, let's say, ball screws, and the customer tells you they replaced the ball screws 8 years ago. That hint there, you can go back here and you can look up 8 years ago and see what the parts were that were ordered back then. So it saves you time on looking up the parts too. And I think that's it. There is a help button
13 minutes.
that'll help you with the Haas Service app if you have any questions. But that is the Haas Service app. And hopefully it will just improve from where it's at right now.